what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, it's a new year, and let's get it started right with some ways you can be more productive. We'll be joined by Todd Lyden with the North Carolina Small Business Center Network, who will share his list of top 10 apps for small business productivity, which I'm really looking forward to, although in a week or so, my kids are going back to college, and I'll still be trying to figure out how to use my new TV. Anyway, we'll also, of course, be highlighting some small businesses of the month, which are small businesses that you should be checking out. They're interesting. We want you to check them out. I'm here. My name is Jeff Neuville. I'm your co-host and director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Dean of the School of Business, Industry, and Technology at Catawba Valley Community College. Gary, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Jeff, I am just doing great. It's been a busy holiday, and it's been even busier first week of January.
It's also a very cold first week of January.
Really cold.
For folks here in North Carolina, for folks up and down the East Coast, and I guess for most of our country, we're sitting in a nice warm podcast studio courtesy of the Mesh Network, and it's nice and toasty here, but it's pretty nasty outside.
It is really something. I grew up in Pennsylvania, but if somebody said, well, you're used to this, I said, absolutely not. I've been here since I was 17, so I have thin blood now.
Well, we want to wish all of our listeners a Happy New Year. Hope that you had very good holidays. We welcome you to 2018. We want to give you some good information so that you can start your business, grow your business more effectively. Usually we start out with an article at the beginning of the podcast, but I actually wanted to start with a grievance.
I'm sorry. What did I do?
You know, it's. I'm sure you've probably done something that caused me angst, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay. Well,
online.
you beat my college basketball team, so you should feel good.
Well, my University of North Carolina Tar Heels also lost to Wofford over the holidays, so we won't speak too loudly.
No, that's okay. And anyway, Wake Forest is a football school now.
This is true, but my grievance, I have concern. Grievance. I don't know if it's the right word, but I like pizza.
I love pizza.
It might be one of my favorite foods. And one of the largest pizza providers is Domino's. And I don't know if I do know. You're a man that watches a lot of sports, and
Absolutely.
You've probably seen TV commercials with Domino's where they have franchise owners smashing their old stores and building new, beautiful stores so that we should come in and pick up their pizzas. And Gary, I'm scratching my head saying, Domino's Pizza, I thought that your competitive advantage, I thought the thing was that you delivered the pizza to me, but now they seem to be saying, hey, come and see our beautiful new stores. I am perplexed.
I understand. I mean, it's a mixed message because that's why you order Domino's.
So,
although if you go to the store, you can probably get it within 30 minutes now, as opposed to if they deliver it.
So once upon a time, and you and I are of that generation, there was a time when having someone deliver your food to you was a pretty unique experience. We were not accustomed to that.
It was a treat.
It was a treat, and that's what set them apart. And perhaps they don't know what their competitive advantage is. So I went online today, and interestingly, Domino's Pizza, according to Credit Suisse, they upgraded Domino's Pizza and says that they remain one of the best retail store investment opportunities out there. And they said that earlier this week, and we're in the first week of January, and apparently that gave them a 3% pop on their stock, although it does say in this little blurb that over the last 6 months, their stock has been down 12%.
So a little pop, it's kind of, maybe it's bouncing.
Well, it's still, if it went down 12 and came back 3, it's still got some bouncing up to go.
That could be a dead cat bounce. Now we're getting in the investment lingo.
Okay, well, okay, but I guess to me the moral of the story is that there may be opportunities out there for your local pizzeria who wants to compete against Domino's. focus on your product. Make good pizza. And I'm not going to get into a rant about the quality of Domino's pizza, but although I'm tempted to.
But, you can do that.
But, you have to have a good product. What's your competitive advantage out there?
They took one of the key reasons why I don't think of going to Domino's to get pizza. I think about ordering it and having it delivered. You're exactly right. I think that's a big deal.
Well, I think maybe, I guess, to their credit, I know they've been big proponents of having an app and being able to order pizza online and making that process, the ordering process, easy. But I'm not sure about the delivery process anymore.
Can we switch gears a little bit to Papa John's? I think it's Papa John's where their owner was upset with the NFL.
You can.
And I just heard it. And I've been following that because I like Papa John's pizza too. But he was upset, said his profits and sales were down because of the NFL.
Well, that's what he blamed it on.
Whether that's right or wrong.
Right.
And then did he leave? That's my understanding.
He might have been asked to leave. I don't think he's any longer there. Yes.
Which other way?
Yes.
So I thought that was an interesting thing too. It's how politics and different things can really impact your business. You have to be careful what you say or what you do.
That's right. Other moral of the story, don't screw with the NFL if you want to keep your job. They might take you out. So anyway, or maybe you blame it on Peyton Manning. I think
I was going to say Peyton Manning. That's exactly right.
So maybe
I enjoyed their commercials.
Maybe we might have Peyton Manning overexposure. Who knows? So anyway.
Okay, sorry.
So anyway, I just, from a small business perspective, you want to compete against the big guys, whether you're the pizza guy competing against Domino's or you're the small retailer competing against Walmart. You better find your niche. You better find your competitive advantage and play it up. And as far as I can tell, if you're in the pizza business, Domino's is giving you some room to do that.
I agree with you.
So anyway.
Certainly a mixed message at best.
All right. Well, that's been bothering me. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to
I'm
get
glad
off
you
my
can
chest.
vent. Most people vent with me.
Okay.
It's in my family, though.
Okay. Well, that's, we all have our strengths.
There you go.
Well, let's welcome Todd Lyden to the Entrepreneur Exchange. Todd, are you with us?
I am definitely here.
Well, thank you, Todd. And Todd is my colleague within the North Carolina Small Business Center Network. Todd is the director of the Small Business Center at Bladen Community College in southeastern North Carolina. And he's also the regional director of the Sand Hills region of the Small Business Center Network, which is 7 additional small business centers. Todd, how are you doing? How have your holidays been?
Very good. We're staying warm. It's really cold, and we got that blast of snow the past couple of days. So school's been out an extra 2 days this week.
Well, and yet I imagine you're still finding ways to stay busy.
Of course, I've been stuck at home, so my wife had a list waiting for me.
There you go. Well, I'm glad. We wanted to talk about productivity, and I guess you're just living that dream.
I try.
Well, and we appreciate that you joining us today. And one of the reasons, or the main reason I invited Todd, there are several reasons. He's a fun and entertaining fellow, but
yourself.
Oh, even more than me. But he, more than most people I know, seems to really keep up to date with apps and tools that can be very helpful to small business and startups. And I follow him on Twitter and various social media type things. And he always puts a lot of interesting content out. So we're very, very pleased that you can join us today, Todd.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. It was interesting when you asked me. It forced me to take something that I normally expound upon for hours and a length of time, and have to cull it down into something nice and neat. So try. And even then, I couldn't even really do that. You asked me to give you a top 10, but even then, I have some runners up that I felt I had to mention at least.
Well, maybe if depending on what our listeners say, we might want to bring you back for the second 10. Who knows? But we'll see how things go. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your role with the Small Business Center Network and your approach to working with small business?
Well, a lot of this came from in a previous life before I nurse, and this was around 2000 when mobile phones had finally started to catch up with, everything we're using now, and the apps started to become kind of the big thing. And it really engaged me because I'd see folks coming in who were trying to start a business and go, I need to do X, Y, or Z, but I got no money to do it with, of course. Or I'd be working with chamber members who wanted to do various things and did not know how to do it. So I immediately started training myself on how to do these things, partially for the chamber itself, but then also for the businesses that we were working with. And so that's where my kind of interest started, and from there it's just continued. Once I came on board with the Small Business Center, it was a natural, because most of our clients are startup or very early, and definitely don't have a lot of money for a lot of the different things that you can now get access to without a lot of cost. Or it can be what I like to use is the freemium model, where you have that, get a taste for it, usually at a free level. And most things have it, the software as a service, the SaaS things, have that kind of, use something for free, we'll get you hooked, and then either as it grows or scales, then you start to get into some costs. So that's where I kind of pinned it on for a lot of folks, because I think a lot of things, you still want to tell folks, if you're going to have a lot of employees or a lot of customers or clients, you got to put some money towards it usually eventually. So, but especially for somebody starting out, especially if it's a one-person shop or somebody doing something out of their home, times a ton they really to do it with, and especially if it's something that they can test to see if it's what they really want to use. It used to be back in the day, our only choice was if you wanted to do any sort of anything with a computer, basically you either had to be an Apple or a PC, and now thankfully we're out of the platform, and really it's got to be agnostic in that regard. You got to be able to handle everything.
So you're sort of in the same boat. You and I do similar things at our respective small business centers, where we get folks that are walking in who haven't started their business yet. They don't have big budgets, and they're trying to figure out how to get things off the ground, and we're trying to help them in a way that doesn't cost money or cost very little money. So that's sort of the way that you're looking at productivity apps and the tools that you work with.
Yeah.
So.
And that's where my assumptions lie. So when I put together my lists, usually those are my criteria. I start with somebody who's either looking at starting or has very little money, or looking for affordability, that freemium level, so they can try it. Maybe they like it. If they don't like it, then maybe there's another option. And then also that kind of agnostic thing, where generally anything I'd recommend is going to be both Apple and Android, and hopefully usually probably a browser or web app, so that if they are on their computer, they can handle all sides of it.
All right, and I've not been on. I've not looked at the New York Times today or the Washington Post or any of the major media. Have you presented this top 10 list to any other media outlets at this point in time, or are our listeners going to have the opportunity to hear it first?
Oh, this is fresh. Yes, very fresh.
Awesome.
All right.
I do keep a list. Like I said, I do this as a seminar and a webinar, but it's almost constantly changing. But again, generally the list is a lot longer. But like I said, it was interesting when you said keep it to a top 10. So I had to actually pick and get selective and go with my top recommendations for different categories. I thought I'd do that. And like I said, it was kind of funny, because even then I was like, I got some other ones that I kind of want to throw in there too, just as like the second place runner up.
It's a real Sophie's Choice dilemma, eh?
In some cases.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we appreciate you sharing this with the Entrepreneur Exchange listeners. So start hitting us with Todd's top 10 app list for small business productivity.
Well, I went by what I thought, and I've always done this with my presentation, by categories of what somebody, especially doing a startup, would really need. And the first one that I prioritized was finance, obviously. everybody's got to worry about that very first thing out of the gate, no matter what. And so the first one I would recommend is a financial app, is called Wave Apps. Wave Apps.
Okay.
It actually is APPS. It is a 100% free alternative to QuickBooks that, especially for somebody who's without employees, would not have to pay anything, because the only real cost they associate with is if you take payments or if you do payroll through their system. Otherwise, it is 100% free. And the nice thing I found about it is they've got a system where there are accountants that are using it now, and using it because it's, number one, pretty intuitive and easy to teach to people, but also, like I said, it has the apps, literally the apps that that work with its cloud-based system.
And you can do that with your mobile phone or on your laptop?
Yes, that's the goal here, is that they have a really good, robust web app that you can access from any browser anywhere, but then you can also download on both Android and iOS their basic app, which is mainly designed for, like, if you're doing invoicing on the go. So if you have a client, and I've had this with several service-based clients, in particular an exterminator and a plumber, who wanted to have, they were just doing standard old paper invoicing, and they had smartphones. They said, here's a great product, take a look at it and see how it works for you. And they really liked it, because once you get in, the hardest part of any accounting is just getting everything into the system. But once it's there, then it's easy to invoice and then take payments again. That's the only place where the costing is, kind of standard, swipe the card kind of thing. But that's the only cost, and that's kind of standard like any other payment system.
Okay, so number one, well, and I'm not sure you're ranking these in like a specific order. So
no, it's just by category. So that'd be my financial one, and of course the other one that would kind of the second place, and there's a bunch of them. The only reason I put that at the top of the list for financial is because it is 100% free outside of the payroll and the payments.
Okay.
But it's very competitive with, again, QuickBooks has their self-employed version of their program now that's very much more affordable than the standard package. But again, you're going to end up paying for it. Now, it's not expensive, but it's one of those things, especially if you have an account. That's what I always remind my folks too with finances. Once you have an accountant, you go with what they want to use, and you work with them as best as possible. But most of them would be happy to have something that's usable, and that's the nice thing with Wave Apps, that it works very well. One that I'm excited to start looking at, and when I was doing the research for this one, there's one called Bullet HQ out of Ireland that's very comparable to Wave Apps that I'm taking a look at. But that's a future option. Take a look at that one in the future.
Okay.
But I was excited to see that one.
All right.
Our second one would be, going very much in line with finance, would be payments, of course. So once you're, up and running, and you can, track all your clientele and invoice them and make sure you're getting paid, you want to be able to take payments. Probably my favorite right now, I've used a variety of them, Stripe, PayPal, but probably the most robust one is Square, or Square Up, as they call themselves now in some of the things. Their point of sale, the card swipers that you can hook into all your phones now, is still probably one of the best. They're all about the same, so they're all competitive in terms of that. Square does, it has a lot of built-ins that you don't see with other pay platforms like PayPal. You can track your clients. You can do e-gift cards through Square. So there's a couple of interesting things that you can do, not payments with it.
So you think Square or Square Up is probably preferable at this point to Stripe or PayPal?
I think it depends on what folks want and what they're most comfortable with. they all pretty much do about the same. One of the reasons I just put Square ahead of them is, like I said, it's got some add-ons that you don't see with the other processors. So
all right.
That's the only reason I put it slightly ahead. But I like PayPal. I think and what you're seeing is with PayPal's business side of it, they're doing a lot more to be competitive with that. So you're seeing a little bit more. And the nice thing about Square, too, that has a little bit of an advantage versus like a PayPal is it's direct to your account, whereas, of course, PayPal, it gets deposited, then you have to redeposit it to your bank, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Sounds good. So that's if you want to get the money, that's what you're going to use.
Yeah, if you want the money, you got to find a way to collect it now, whether it's online or in person. You got folks who, like I said, I assume, I've got a lot of service folks who are people who are out and about. You want to be able to take a payment on the run. You go to somebody's house, you do some service. You want to be able to take the credit card right then and there and not wait to get the payment. Go ahead and get it right then and there.
Okay.
Along with that, my number third category is CRM, customer relations management. Mm-hmm. Something that a lot of small businesses don't think about fairly early on, especially when they're starting. But I think it's one of those things that people are finally starting to catch up with, mainly because for the longest time, most of the systems for it were onerous, a pain, very difficult to deal with, justifiably so. But my favorite right now, there's a wide variety of them, but the one that I like because it is 100% free outside of taking payments again and doing payroll, in that it's kind of similar to these others, is Bitrix, Bitrix 24.
Okay.
And the other reason I like it is it does that customer relations management where it, you track your contacts, you have all the different ways you make contact with your clients, your customers. It also has a low-key sales system. It's not as robust as a lot of other ones, but it has those. Plus, it has a lot of other build-ins like describing with Square, where it does a lot of tracking, a lot of reminders, those kind of things that you want to have in a system that helps you track your sales funnel with clients. So if they're cold and you're trying to get them up to a hot sales kind of performance, it's something that really helps you with that. And again, it's free outside of a couple of add-ons you could pay for, but most other ones, and they're again very comparable, do pretty much the exact same thing, but right out of the gate you're going to end up paying something for it, whereas Bitrix, as long as you're small scale in particular, it's not going to cost you anything up front. So.
And the way I'm spelling Bitrix is Bitrix 24?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
The other thing I liked about it after testing some of the other ones is the app is the Android and the iOS app are very nice, easy to use, and a nice kind of thing if you're on the go to have that kind of access.
Okay.
This kind of goes along with this. Number 4, I put generically productivity / time or project management. Most of the time, project management is probably the crucial thing there. I guess time management will come in a minute, but for project management, I almost have a 3-way tie because they basically all do the exact same thing. They have freemium levels, but ultimately they're all going to end up costing you because there's very few that do anything for free in this area. But Basecamp, which is one of the older ones that's been around since the late 90s. Basecamp's been around forever. But two of the newer ones that have kind of usurped Basecamp's market share have been Asana, ASANA, and Trello, TRELLO. It kind of goes to what your preferences are. I think with both of them, they're project management. So the idea is when you're sharing something with clients or people you're working with, if you've got employees you're actually working with, it's a way to share the project build as it's going along. So whether you're talking about, you got straight up something like an architectural plan that you're trying to share and how it's developed over time, or if it's something like a website design that you're slowly trying to show how it's going to lay out. Each one of them has their kind of, in my experience, people's preference for project management systems depends on what they're really looking for, how much it needs to be visual versus that more of a time management kind of thing, i.e. the project management. Are the steps getting done, or are the processes happening in a meaningful way? So I guess that's why we lump these in with productivity. But those three are the ones that I think most folks would use. But again, most of the time they're never going to be truly freemium, because once you start getting into having any number of clients and employees involved, that's when the costs usually get associated with it.
So are we counting those as apps 4, 5, and 6, or is that we just say use one of these? This is for project management.
Yeah, project management.
So that's
use one of these.
All right.
And that's such a narrow thing that I don't think most folks necessarily need that. So, but it's one that I make sure I include, because inevitably somebody asks, "What about this?"
Hi, I'm Alan.
I'm Chris.
And we're the co-hosts of Foot Candle Films, a movie review and film discussion show here on the Mesh.tv.
Each episode, we talk about some new movies, cover some film news, and have some recommendations.
And trust us, we're just as likely to talk about the latest Jim Jarmusch film as we are the newest Transformers installment.
Hold on, don't get too crazy.
Well, okay, maybe not that bad. But you can find our show and all our episodes on the Mesh.tv. Plus, you can subscribe to get new episodes delivered right to your computer or mobile device.
We'll see you in the ticket line.
That's probably more common, which is our next one, which is a little more time management. I consider it more scheduling, because I do a lot of work with clients that have to schedule appointments, is scheduling. And I got two for this one. My favorite right now is Setmore, SETMORE, which is designed for any sort of business that has appointments, hair salon, a plumber who's got to have set appointment times, you name it, anything like that. Setmore's pretty nice because it, number one, it's completely free at the freemium level, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur. It really works. But like I said, the nice thing was it has one of the better apps that I've seen. Unfortunately, most scheduling software is still browser-based. I haven't seen too many that have good iOS and Android apps to go with it. My runner-up is a really nice web-based one called Schedule, which is probably the way most people think they're saying it when they pronounce schedule. It's SHEDUL. Schedule, I guess, is how I don't know how you'd say it, but
and that's SHE, she, BULE.
Yeah, no E on the end, just she. DUL.
Okay.
That's the way I spell it.
Okay.
And Schedule. It's also very similar to Setmore, where it has the nice thing I like about both of them is the stuff online, which is great for setting it up and getting the client information in, but it allows for the client to input their own information, and then to have the web-based system so that you can put it up on your website, your Facebook, where people can go in and ask for the times that you have laid out. And then Setmore and Schedule both have email and text notification reminders that you don't have to pay for, which is another crucial component. Most other systems I've tested and looked at, if you wanted to get into the texting, they ended up charging you for it, which makes sense, but when you're starting out, you don't necessarily want to have to pay for it if you don't have to. So
Cool. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds economical.
On a similar vein, I don't imagine too many folks at the startup stage have too many employees, but I always include employee management because eventually they may get there, and it kind of goes pretty well with the scheduling component. I guess you might want to consider this employee management or time schedule management, but there's one really nice one called When I Work, which is free up to 75 employees. So, I mean, it's pretty robust for a small business. And it has the apps where it would allow for the employees through their login on the app to do schedule switching or request particular time slots, that kind of stuff. So if you have your pizza joint that you're trying to hook up and they have a lot of employees, they'd be able to go in there and schedule themselves.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's see, where are we at? We're on 7, right?
I think that was number 6. You're on number 7.
Number 7, yeah, here we go. Document I would say this document management, but I guess it's collaboration. We talked about your preference was Evernote. My preference is Google Drive. And unfortunately, I would have to count almost everything that's in the Google suite of apps, which as a whole hog solution is probably one of the best things that almost any business could get. But Google Drive and the app that it has now is really fantastic for sharing documents, doing collaborative work, whether it's a spreadsheet, standard document, you name it. It's got it all covered there pretty well. Plus, the scan option with Google Drive now means that whereas you used to have to download a separate app to scan something, it's got it built in so that if you need to quickly scan a document into your drive and save it for later use, it can do it pretty quickly and easily. One of my favorites for like I said, document management or collaboration, because then you can easily go in and share it with whoever you need to share it to. I think it's fairly competitive with Dropbox, which is another very popular version, or Box.net, that are very comparable in terms of what they can do. But Google Drive's free out of the gate, plus it has all the other things that work well with everything it's Google.
Yeah, and I'm more of a simpleton in that I find it so easy to use the Google stuff that I figure that the bad guys are going to steal it, and I can't ever remember my Dropbox password, so I figure that the bad guys can't either. So it's much safer in Dropbox. Probably not true, though, but yeah, that's how my mind works.
I understand.
All right.
The nice thing, too, is that the kids are all, because Google's so integrated with a lot of schools now, all my kids have used Google products for years now, and they don't even know what Microsoft is hardly. So
I was actually doing that poll on my college kids when they were home as well, and they seem equally comfortable at this point with Google Docs and Word, Excel, that sort of stuff too. But I think the momentum is certainly going towards the Google piece of it. Mm-hmm. So.
Let's see, we're on number 8. This one I generically labeled marketing, because everybody's got to have some sort of marketing component. This was a true Sophie's choice for a number 1, but if there had to be a number 1, I would definitely say, and I'm going to go back with Google again, because the app in particular, although most of this can of course be done online, for Google My Business is so important for anybody starting out, especially if you're a retail or location-based business. You pretty much must take control of your Google My Business listing and download the app, because it allows you to control so much of the way you're going to look when you show up on Google now. It used to be, you make a change and it might happen sometime in the next week or two. Now changes happen pretty much immediately, and you can change so much about what goes on with that listing directly from the app, which, of course, if you got your phone, you got it right then and there. There's so many different components. The two big ones that I would say that they've enacted just recently in the last about 6 months is direct messaging through the Google app, or through the Google My Business app, listing through a separate app that they have called Allo, which is another whole different thing. But basically it means that we're seeing more and more people who, when they do a search, find your business on Google, and you pop up on that listing, as opposed to calling you now, they can now directly text you straight through this service. And it's one of the reasons I recommend folks making sure, especially if you got a location-based business, that you want to have that out of the gate. Also because they've enacted posts which allow you to share pictures, information. It's them trying to be competitive with Facebook, knowing that they want you to be looking for your business on Google and not on Facebook, and to make sure that you're almost as robust looking and interesting right there, on a listing, especially for a location-based business, because that's when all those pizza guys you're talking about.
Right.
To make sure there we go. That way they can get their they can get the messages as quickly as possible.
So you said that this one was a difficult choice. What conflicted you?
My my backup is one that I think most people need out of the gate because most folks are not graphic artists and can't afford graphic artists. The backup is called Canva, Canva. It originally started as a browser-based. I would dare say it's kind of like Adobe Photo, any of their photo stuff, but for dummies. Anybody can go on there because it's got a great, robust system of design elements, layouts, the layouts for all the different social media, whether you're trying to put something on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. It can make your photos look better. You can design ads. It's got all different marketing materials built into it. And the design elements outside of pictures and a couple of other ones are only $1 a piece if you want to pay for them, but in my use of it, I've never paid a dime for it. And one of the other good parts about it is you upload your own elements. So if you've got, logos, different color designs for your business, whatever it is, from your website, etc., you can upload all of them, and then when you go to produce something for marketing materials, whether it's online or in print, you would have it accessible. And just recently, they had an iOS app, but they just finished their Android app, and it's actually really nice. So I highly recommend that one as a marketing tool for folks who are not graphically designed. They're not good at doing that kind of stuff. So it really helps with that.
All right, that sounds good. All right, what else you got?
To go right along with that is the social media, and this is another. It's not so much of a Sophie's choice as that the two best ones for managing your social media online, whether it's web or they have great apps for it as well. The two that I would recommend more than anything else are Buffer app, Buffer, B-F-F-E-R, and Hootsuite, Hootsuite, Hootsuite. Both of those are the major freemium level. They have a really good freemium level for both of them to upload your social media for all the major sites. But they give you access to 3 of the major platforms. So for most businesses, if they're going to do, let's say, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, probably cover the gamut for most of them. That's all they probably need. Wouldn't cost them a dime, and they can manage. There's some limitations with Buffer, but Hootsuite allows up to 30 scheduled posts at a time, so you get at their freemium level, so you can get a lot of posts on there, scheduled, planned, and then go manage it straight from your phone. So
okay, sounds good.
My last one, this was an interesting one because I thought about this. This came in. I was doing this seminar one night, and somebody said, "Well, what about this?" Hadn't thought about this before, but for my last one, the 10, was travel, because a lot of businesses do a lot of travel, whether it's locally or even if they've got to go across country. And this isn't a Sophie's choice, but they're two different apps that I think cover two different ground. If you're local, I highly recommend Waze, W-A-Z-E, which was purchased by Google, and it's a traffic recognition system, and it's a crowd-sourced traffic system. So it is actually better than probably the DOT. In fact, back when the hurricane happened last year, if you wanted to find which roads were still passable, the best way to do it was using Waze.
Interestingly, I saw an article in the New York Times over the holidays where some New Jersey towns were complaining about Waze because during high traffic periods it was redirecting traffic through their nice little towns and irritating the locals.
I can see, yeah. And that's the goal. Is it tried to do that. And the other reason why is to a certain degree for small business to advertise on it now. So that's going to become a separate function. But that's not the reason I'm recommending. I'm recommending it primarily for the travel function. Excuse me. The other one it's very different for somebody who's doing more air travel is Tripit, Tripit. It helps plan your travel and can log your arrangements, that kind of stuff, and keep everything coalesced into one package for you when you travel. Especially, you're managing booking a flight, the travel once you get there, and then the hotel. Very good app for that.
Okay. All right, you've given us your top 10 list, and Todd, it sounds like you sort of referred to the fact that you update your listing on a regular basis. I mean, is this sort of a continual process for you? It's not like you sit down every January or December and say, "Here's the top 10." It sounds like this is something that you're monitoring throughout the year.
Yeah, I try to keep track of it. Like I said, I have recommendations that I make like this for clients all the time in terms of what they want. But like I said, I do regular presentations on, and I'll talk. I use this kind of format with different types, and then I'll talk about the other options outside of these top in the category, but then other options that do exist. And I talk to a lot of folks. Like I said, I'm assuming somebody that's starting from scratch with little to no money, but then we do have folks who do have money, so talk about some of the paid options and where they can go from here if they're looking at scaling up to something bigger and better. There's a lot of other options out there, but these are the ones that when you force me to pick something, I can probably do it, but these were the top ones. But yeah, I try to keep tabs, and there's a couple of good websites for the newer stuff that's coming out. It's always funny to me when somebody goes, "Is there something for this?" And odds are there is.
I think you're right about that. Now, I find it pretty interesting to follow you on social media. If our listeners want to keep up with you, where should they be looking?
If they just look up Todd Lyden, odds are they're going to find. I tell folks whenever I do this stuff, if you can't find me on the internet, you're not looking. But I'm at Twitter at Todd Lyden.
And Lyden is spelled it's Toddlyden.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's I follow you on Twitter, and you're always sharing a lot of useful information out there as well. So we encourage our folks out there to be following Todd, and he'll be updating you on interesting technology updates throughout the year.
Yeah.
Plus, he's got a witty sense of humor, which we appreciate.
Thank you, sir.
So. Well, Todd, we very much appreciate you joining us today, and we always like to end the Entrepreneur Exchange by sharing a small business of the month, something interesting that we've come across. Todd, you have anything that you would like to share with our listeners?
Well, one that I'd share that's local, they've been around for a couple of years in my area, and you're seeing more of this happening in a lot of areas because of the decline of print media, newspapers, in my area, if you're coming to my area, I'd highly recommend going to BladenOnline.com. They've essentially become what most places would consider like a hyper-local news source for our newspaper. Went to twice a week publishing about 10 years ago. And really kind of knocked out, and not only that, but it's doing what so many other conglomerated places have done, where there's not a lot of local actual news in the paper anymore. And a gentleman started this up, and a young lady in our county picked it up from him a couple years ago. And you're seeing this kind of successful model in a lot of places, not just in urban areas, but rural areas like ours, where somebody's picking up the ball, and it's a lot of advertising, but at the same time, they're fulfilling the function that a lot of traditional media outlets used to do, but they're not doing anymore.
And they're doing it all online? They're not doing any more printing, or are they still printing?
This one is they're actually finally starting to get into some print, but they started as, like a lot of these, as just a strictly online outlet to produce news for the area, yeah.
And that's Bladen, BLADEN, online.com?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you sharing that one. Gary, what's your small business this month?
Well, thanks, Jeff. My small business of the month is Dog Tag Bakery. And I'm sure you're not surprised that my business is related to food or the support of our military. I saw it on TV over the weekend, and it really hit me. I really think it's something that we might even be looking at our schools between the three of us. It's called Dog Tag Inc. is an innovative 5-month training program that fosters the growth of driven entrepreneurial mind in wounded veterans, spouses, and caregivers through a world-class education with ample leadership development opportunities. By the end of the program, graduates have earned a certificate in business administration from Georgetown University, continuing studies. The curriculum serves as an introduction to business from an academic perspective and has 7 courses, which is probably similar to some of the things that we're doing: accounting, management, communication, financial management, marketing, business policy, and entrepreneurship. The cool thing about it is the Dog Tag Bakery in Georgetown provides the vehicle for classroom learning in a real live business experience, and the storefront, state-of-the-art bakery and kitchen, as well as classroom space. So I think the combination, it's really a cool thing, and it's for veterans, and it's about food and bakery, which I love. So I thought that was a perfect small business for me to talk about.
All right, sounds good. My small business this month, I was going through my a recent edition of Entrepreneur Magazine, and it was the end of the year edition where they talk about different franchise opportunities, and one really caught my eye, made me think of Gary. It came about by 2 couples that are having a barbecue in their backyard, and the 2 wives were cooking, and the 2 fellows were looking to find something to do. It was Mark and Trish Oliphant and Kelly and Stuart Josberger are their names. So the fellows started throwing hatchets, and they made a game of it, and they eventually turned it into their own business called Stumpy's Hatchet House. And basically it's...
And why did you think of me?
When I think of throwing hatchets and drinking
me a lot.
beer,
Okay, well, I get that part.
So basically they opened up a place in Eatonton, New Jersey, which I think is near their hometown, where they have 8 pits for hatchet throwing, and they came up with like a target, and for $20 an hour you get to throw a hatchet at a target. They actually don't serve food there, but they have delivery food options that come in. You know, maybe even
Domino's.
If they still deliver, maybe even Domino's.
Maybe they'll be close that you could walk.
You know, or you can go out and bring your Domino's in. They don't serve beer, but you can bring your own beer and alcoholic
beer
drinks.
and hatchets. Just doesn't sound like a great combination.
I know. That's why I thought of you. I thought beer and hatchets makes me think of you. And they found that on a per customer basis, they're getting about $61 between hatchet throwing and merchandise that they are selling, such as T-shirts and beer koozies and whatnot.
Cool.
They're opening franchises in Morris County, New Jersey, San Antonio, Texas, Austin, Texas.
San Antonio, my kids, grandchildren.
Well, you have grandchildren that can go through hatchets.
That's right. Are there rubber and plastic hatchets?
No, they're real hatchets.
Oh, cool. So, that's just what I need for my kids.
You know, so if you are interested in a franchise or want to learn more about Stumpy's Hatchet House, check them out at stumpyshh.com. And, you know, they're interested in, it's like a low overhead franchise, you know, and I'm just thinking about this area, Gary. I think that it would be a big hit in our area. So let's think about that.
Big hit or a big jab or
just,
I mean, I think, Jeff, even though it's very early, that could be the small business of the year.
Could be. Well, yeah, it's, you know, we set a bar high here in January, so good for us. If you've got a suggestion for our Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, email them to us at eexchange@themesh.tv. And if we choose your small business and use it, we'll send you one of our Entrepreneur Exchange prize packs. We want to thank Todd Lyden with the North Carolina Small Business Center Network and the Small Business Center Director at Bladen Community College for joining us. Thank you so much, Todd, for your time and for putting our list together.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you for having me.
You can follow Todd on Twitter at Todd Lyden, so we encourage you to do that. We want to thank the Mesh for hosting us. You can download the podcast and this podcast and many other interesting podcasts at themesh.tv, or you can subscribe at the iTunes.store. I don't know if it's a .store. We'll call it the iTunes Store today.
Okay.
So anyway, we hope everyone had good holidays, and we look forward to talking with you again next month.
And I want to thank the Mesh for having good heat.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.